we were having a chat earlier about Joe Thornton and how well he is fit in here, and it surprised me. I was a little bit of a skeptic as to what his role would be, how he would look. He's looked very good, and we discussed the likelihood of him returning next year. I'll pose that to you, and I'll add, the Chara angle to it as well. He's back in Boston tonight, and Chara's looked good. He's playing big minutes. Like, they're both the oldest guys in the league, but they're playing pretty well on good teams. What is the likelihood of Thornton returning next year, and if so, to Toronto, and Chara returning, and if so, to Washington?
Yeah. I don't have, because I'm on my phone, I can't Google this. Maybe someone on the show can, but I asked Joe Thornton last spring in the middle of the pause about whether he was definitely going to come back. Remember, the Sharks weren't part of the bubble. And I quoted him on Twitter saying not only did he want to come back, but he wanted to come back for 5 more years. I think that's what I quoted him saying.
Right.
And everyone laughed in the hockey Twitterverse. I got to tell you, I never know with Joe if he's putting me on or not. Like, there might have been a half-truth in there. I mean, he doesn't talk about quitting. I mean, he loves the game so much and just pictures himself playing forever. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen, but I guess my point is we all assumed that he was just coming back for this 1 year, but he's never said that. He's never said, this is my last year.
Right.
So, obviously, with him, and I think the same applies to Chara. Chara really put a lot of thought into it before he came back. It's got to be about, how does this work with my family? Do I have a chance to win? And how does my body feel? And both those guys at that age, that's what they're going through. It really is a month-to-month decision in some ways. How is Thornton going to feel at the end of this playoff run with the Leafs? Can he put himself through this again? And if he feels he can, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, if the Leafs win the Cup, out of all that bedlam, which not only we quite the party in Toronto after all these years, but for Joe Thornton, the one missing thing in the Hall of Fame resume, maybe that gives him pause to actually he doesn't need to play again. But I'm just telling you, when I asked him last year if he was coming back for another year, he said he was coming back for 5. So take that for what it is.
Yeah.
Well, he's playing well too. That's the thing. Like, I just never wanted to get to a point where it's like Jaromir Jagr in Florida, where he was dragging Huberdeau and Barkov down. You know what I mean? Like, they were ready to take that next step, and they were deferring to him, and he had kind of become a caricature of himself. You know what I mean? Like a bit of a sideshow. Everywhere it went, it was Jagr this, Jagr that, but ultimately the product wasn't as good on the ice. And I mean, Jagr's still playing. He's literally still playing now.
I know. That's a great point, Noodles. And I don't think that Jumbo would want to, he would have to be comfortable with his level of production and what he's bringing to the table. And here's the thing about, Brian, I totally agree with you the way it seems to me, at least. I'm not in the room, but seems to have fit in with the Leafs. He doesn't even get to do it in a normal year where he would have those guys at his place all the time on some off nights to do team building stuff. That's who he is. The stories from other, he hates talking about himself, from other teammates, from his time in San Jose, from picking up guys who were traded. He's the one who picks them up at the airport instead of the team services guy. He did that 1,000 times. Getting the guys together for events, they're legendary, and I could just imagine what this year would have been like if the rules allowed for it, right? I mean, it just would have been crazy, and so it's even more impressive that he's fitting in when you consider that he hasn't been afforded the normal layers of chemistry building with his new team.
I even think of the fans, Pierre, looking at him in the glass and warm up, like they would have been awestruck of this guy. You know what I mean?
Show.
Like
that's a show.
Yeah.
For kids, for adults, going to, I would love to be at the rink watching him play as a Leaf, and I will never get that opportunity unless he returns next year.
Mm-hmm. Brian, there would be 35-year-old men on the glass and warm up getting a look at him saying, "Oh my God, that's Joe Thornton."
Yeah, in a Thornton jersey that they just paid $250 for at Real Sports, and you're right, that would absolutely be a show. Got to go see Jumbo play as a Leaf, And
it's a nice incentive for the team. Not that they don't have enough, given what's happened in the playoffs the last few years, but to be able to perhaps go deep and win one for that guy, players in San Jose, every time they got close, it always reverted back without me bringing up Joe's name to, wouldn't this be amazing for Joe? Like, they just love that guy so much and go through a wall for him. And, you know, again, there's so much already riding in this market on the Leafs and what's happened in the playoffs, and obviously the cup drought dating back forever, that you don't really need to add that on top of it. But nevertheless, it doesn't hurt in terms of wanting all these different ingredients to perhaps produce some magic here this year.